What's going on, guys? So this is a video about the most expensive piece of gear I've ever had in my studio. And while honestly, I don't even know how to explain the nervousness I experienced while using it, I just wanted to say that there is so much more to the story of why a $5,000 specialty item isn't something I should probably ever make a video about again. So the Moog vocoder, this one, is a reissue of the almost identical 16-band model, and I read that the original was created with a design extremely close to another brand at the time, Bode, with their 7702 model, which was made in 1977. The creator was Harold Bode, and I guess this is a rebrand with some performance updates. You can see the striking resemblance.
The original Moog vocoder came out in 1978. This is a reissue of that vocoder.
So to start, there's something to be said for creating a boutique item, right? Something of a collector's piece. Some things come to mind, such as the Moog System 10 or the System 35 or 55. Like, obviously I get it, I'm someone who cannot afford these. That said, in life, I mean, there's so many things that come like this. So a Toyota Corolla and a Ferrari Enzo are simply just cars, but one costs 20 grand and the other is like $3.5 million. I looked it up. But essentially, both will take your ass to the grocery store and back. So in this video, which is not a review, I want to explore what is in a $5,000 Moog vocoder and what I personally felt while using it. Before we get there though, this video was made, clearly only made possible by my friends over at Perfect Circuit here in Burbank. I was not paid. I don't get to keep a ridiculously expensive vocoder, but imagine how else would I get my hands on something like this? So you can buy gear online or in the store, so check out perfectcircuit.com. They also have regular sales and stuff, which is pretty sweet. So the story of this Moog vocoder starts something like 6 months ago when I initially asked to borrow the Moog vocoder. And of course, they said no. I totally get it, because letting me borrow a $5,000 piece of gear is probably not great for business. But when they finally said yes, I was actually more nervous than excited, to be perfectly honest with you. And that's the first thing I want to speak about. For me, expensive gear isn't always as much fun to play with. When you recognize that you can't easily just replace something at this price point, the gun shyness in me really showed its face, and I actually didn't even use it for over a week when I first got it. The most expensive piece of gear I owned up to this point is my Prophet 6, and that's half the price, and I'm still super careful with that. My most used synths of last year are the Subharmonicon and the 8-bit warps, and I don't mind bumping them or dinging them, because while they aren't the cheapest, at least I know that it's not a damn near museum piece item, and there will always be another one for sale somewhere.
Here's a quick tip. Use a compressor on the microphone before you put it into the vocoder. It will slow down your signal much better.
So since I know someone's gonna search and they're gonna find this video about the 16-band vocoder, I want to quickly talk about the functions of it. So you'd plug your microphone or your source audio into the program section, and you'd plug your synthesizer into the carrier section, and you turn the volume up until you get a good signal. You also have overload indicators, which are pretty great. So next, initially I'd say you'd want to have this sample and hold turned off, as it freezes incoming audio, but if that's what you're looking for, then obviously you want this on. So over here you have the external patch switch, which when in the out position, it's using the internal routing, but if it's in the in position, it will let you cross patch using the included cables for some unusual sounds. I'd say the most useful and impactful on the tone of your vocoder sound is the switched/direct selector. If you want to hear yourself more, i.e. more of the dry signal, you'd want this over to the side that says direct. And if you want all vocoder stuff, have this switch to the side, which is labeled 5080. So around back you have your power input, which seems like a proprietary plug, so do not lose it. And also you have foot switch inputs for sample and hold and external patch, which makes the performance aspect more accessible. Next up, I'm going to say something that is probably going to offend some people, but I'll disguise it as a question. So, would you buy something that in a sense does essentially one thing for this price? Especially if you're not a professional. To me, is the Moog vocoder the best sounding vocoder I've ever used? Yes. Could I, someone who makes money from creating music and videos, justify that price? Though when using it like lots of hardware, it really felt like the Prophet 6 in some ways. There's not a lot of options, but that's what makes it amazingly enjoyable to use. I want to look at screens as little as possible when making music, and this has no interface. I mean, less than the Prophet 6. Straightforward design makes me more productive, but as far as recallability, that's an obvious no here. Now, the last thing I want to speak about is the sound. And to me, the Moog vocoder sounds much fuller, rounder, less harsh, and less digital than other emulations that I have used. That said, y'all know that you can get free VST vocoders for absolutely free online, so yeah. Here, let's touch on alternatives I've personally used and some random sound examples from these. So number one, the Tau vocoder. It's an 11-band VST. It's free and it sounds great in my honest opinion. And for me, if we're talking alternatives, this is number one for me. Roland JDXI, JDXA. These are extremely authentic and fun, not too harsh sounding. I don't know how many bands, I looked it up, but I couldn't find it. This would probably be my number two if I were ranking them. So the Novation Mini Nova, great interface, great polyphony. For its age and price, there's nothing like it. And for its vocoder itself, I'd rank it as third.
I think this vocoder sounds good. If you haven't tried it, you should.
The Roland VP03, and while I like some of the things on the VP03, it sounds much more digital than the original VP330, but it has a lot more top end if that's what you're looking for. There's tons of hands-on access to parameters and whatnot, but to me, ears-wise, it's last on the list for a reason.
This is the sound of the vocoder with the chorus off. And this is the sound of the vocoder with the chorus on. The tone slider changes the tone of your voice from very bassy to having more top end as you turn it up. I think it sounds pretty good. What do you think?
Lastly, let's speak about Moog's own alternative, the Spectravox, exclusively released back in 2019 at Moog Engineering Workshop. While it's more than a vocoder, it's got 10 bands and it's semi-modular. So if you wanted to, you could take an external polyphonic synth and use that as the carrier. But that said, good luck getting one of these for a reasonable price. I did find a dream vocoder of sorts while working on this video, and the Korg VC10 vocoder, oh baby, this thing has 32 voices of polyphony built in, and has a spot for a gooseneck microphone, which is included. So you don't have any external patching possibilities, and while it was made in 1978, so finding one without problems could be a task. That said, an all-in-one program and carrier vocoder like this seems like a killer option if you've got the cash. Wrapping this up, honestly, I struggled making this video because I am a musician, but when it comes to buying gear, I am incredibly pragmatic. Though, what I realize is that no one is going to buy or not buy a $5,000 piece of equipment that is more or less a collector's item just because I say so. It's built amazingly well, and I think at the end of the day, the Moog 16-band vocoder in this form is really only something Moog would do. But before I go, here's this.
Oh yeah, and remember to like, subscribe, follow me on Instagram and Twitter. Thanks again for watching. I'll see you in the next one.